What's going on, everyone? I want to do a little training for you guys and kind of show you guys how to set up and trade supply and demand zones. So I realistically, in my system, you guys all have my strategies. I play a couple of different ways. I always scalp the 5-minute time frame using the 20 SMA. I think you guys are all pretty familiar with that. I also used first hours high and low for intraday scalping as well. Kind of wait for that first 30 minutes of the market to close, and then take either the entry over the confirmation to the long side or the confirmation to the downside. But supply and demand also plays a very, very key role in a lot of my trading. And a lot of the times I'm constantly looking at the supply and demand zones, kind of figuring out, is this a potential good trade? Because not every scalp on the 5-minute time frame is going to be good. Not every scalp over the first hour high or low is going to be a good scalp. You have to know where your previous day's supplies are, your macro supplies, your demand zones, where potentially could we bounce if you're going to give it a little bit more room to work. So I'm going to show you guys exactly how I set this up. What we are going to start off with, I'm just going to use the SPY for this. So for this example, setting up this chart, I'm just going to use the SPY. We're going to start off with the daily time frame. And what I like to do on the daily time frame is kind of just visually glance over the chart. Now, what I'm looking at here is 3 months worth of data, okay? Some of this data could be invalid, but I like to include at least 2-3 months worth of data just so I understand where the macro levels of supply and demand are. So what does that mean? I have 3 months worth of candlesticks on my chart. We can kind of see where we have consolidated. We kind of see where we've bottomed out. So just using your eyes, I want to make this very, very simple. Let's look at the high. What is the high, guys? Where are your eyes being attracted to? Obviously today. Today we top tick this high. This is the whole, this is the highest touch in this whole 3 months. So what am I going to do? I am going to put my top supply zone right here at the high, okay? Now, what I want is, if we do manage to get over 431.81, this might be an area of opportunity to go long, okay? So what am I looking at now? What is another previous area that maybe have acted as resistance at one point in time, or maybe a couple of times, right? Let's use your eyes. Let's not make this more difficult than what it needs to be. If I look at this area here, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days worth of trading before we had a leg down. This seems like a pretty significant area of resistance. This is going to be a supply zone. If I kind of look right here, just going back just the last month of a couple of weeks ago, this same area here, right before we kind of gapped over, this area here between that 415, 414, 415 area seems to be giving the SPY a lot of problems. Previous area of resistance, previous area of resistance. What is this telling me? If we do pull back, what could this potentially act as, guys? What could potentially this act as? We need to know this answer already, guys. Previous level of resistance might become a future level of support, okay? So 417, 415, in between that zone could act as a future level of support, being that it was a previous level of resistance. Okay, we're going to keep on moving along here. I'm going to go a little bit quicker. We can see, potential get this gap down here. We had a little bit of a stall out here. We had some price action here. This is kind of a tricky zone here. We do have a little bit of a gap to fill between 401 and around 395. What I'm going to do is, because this is not just a clear line like this is here and not like this is up here, this is going to act as a zone, okay? So this is not so much of a exact number, right? But it's going to be a zone, okay? So this zone between top side being around 401 and the bottom being around 393, this is a potential zone that if we do lose 417 and we lose this 20-day moving average of around 410, we could potentially come back into this zone here of around 401 to around 393. Now, it doesn't have to get all the way down into this zone. It could just quickly, lightly tag it and then kind of bounce up. But this zone here has a gap here, a previous gap. Obviously, that gap was filled on the way up. However, if the price action does want to come down, we've got this potential gap. And then I'm going to go ahead and just put the bottom line here, right? We have a couple of areas of support here at around 370, and then obviously our bottom at 362. Now we are going to go to the 4-hour time frame, and we're going to start seeing how this sets up, guys. If we take a look at this chart on the 4-hour, we can see we've got some, whoops, going back just a little bit, we're only going 3 months, right? So we're going from 516 is here, 516, whoops, 516, right? So if we look at the 4-hour time frame, 4-hour time frame, and we're just going to go back 3 months worth of data here. So what I want to do is just take this right up here until about the 16th, okay? So let's look at the lines, that the supply and demand zones that we already drew, okay, that we already drew on our daily time frame. If we kind of see those lines that we drew on our daily time frame, you can see how it's pretty much matching up very, very identical and almost perfectly on a 4-hour time frame. You can see here we're really not missing any spots here. We did have a nice run up. Look at this double bottom here off of the 370 zone. Look at the 370 zone bounce here in June, bounce, test, and now we've been on this massive run here ever since the beginning of June here. But if we kind of look at the zone that we got a little bit choppy into, again, big decline, choppy zone. Once we finally got above that zone here, we ran into this previous area of supply, broke through that. Now we're at the top of the zone here, 431. I do see a back test. I do see a potential back test. Not saying we can't push higher, but I do see a potential back test maybe into the 417 zone. That would be ideal, but we're really not missing anything. So I just want to make sure that we're not missing anything. If anything, we could potentially move this. Oh man, we could potentially move this zone on the 4-hour time frame down a little bit, right? So let's include the bottom support here. Let's include this resistance. This zone now is between 390 and 397. I would expect this to be a firm level of support. I would expect it to be choppy in this range. But what I do know is that if we lose 389, 390, we've got a lot of room down. This would be your macro short here, potentially for a swing trade. So if this was to happen, I'm just making up generic situations, but if this was to happen and we lose this zone, this is a potential swing trade here, okay? So let's look at the 1-hour time frame, and again, we're going to go back just a couple of months here. Okay, if we kind of look at the 1-hour time frame, are we missing anything? Looks like we've got a demand zone here. Okay, we've got a little bit of a demand zone here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a demand zone here, and I'm going to put a demand zone here at this low. Everything else looks to be adding up perfectly here. We might have at this wick here, we might have a mini floor here. Only reason is if we kind of zoom in here, right? And if I show you this, previous resistance finally broken through, acted as a level of support, and pushed higher once again. If we look at this level here, back test, this level here, resistance, 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 back test. Same thing. You can see what I'm doing here, guys, is adding in all of these supply and demand zones. Now, when we start to day trade, this is what's going to be very beneficial to you guys. Because if we look at the daily time frame here, this looks like an absolute mess, right? This looks very messy. We don't understand what's going on here. However, we know that we've got some daily supply and demand zones, as well as 4-hour, as well as 1-hour. If we look at the 1-hour time frame, it starts to get a little bit more clean here, and we have, you know, resistance, supports, resistance, supports, supports, resistance. Okay. Now let's go down to the 15-minute time frame. Look at how perfectly this matches up, guys. If we look at this here, if we get back into this 423 zone, is this a potential bounce? Of course. The last time we came into 423, we bounced. If we lose 423, should we short? Absolutely. So if we lose this demand zone, this is a short. If we come down to the demand zone and start to bounce and then confirm that candle, we go ahead and go long. Demand zone, supply zone. Everything looks pretty clean here. Does not look like we're missing anything. I think between 423, 424 could be a little bit choppy, but nothing much there. Now let's get down to the sweet spot and let's look at the 5-minute time frame. If we're looking to day trade, we are looking to day trade the 5-minute time frame, and we have all of our previous supply and demand zones here. So you can see obviously a break over 431.73 is a long position. There's nothing now. We're in the middle of the range. What we would be looking for is some type of bounce between 426, 427, or we would be looking for, so first things first is we would be looking for a bounce off of 427, and we need the candle to take out the consolidation. This is where you want to go long, and you want to take profits closer to the top of the range. Now, if we come down, we give an attempt at a bounce, however, never take out that consolidation high, and now we lose 427. This is a short position. You're going to want to enter here. You're going to want to take profits into 423. Guys, I hope that helps you understand how to use supply and demand zones. I will make more videos like this one. If you guys are interested in learning how to day trade, you guys are interested in learning my strategies, the 3-part system, you're interested in the watch list, you want one-on-one coaching, be sure to join evolutiontraders.com, become a lifetime member, join the Discord. I'll see you guys on the inside.